Great.
Uh, Good day, good morning, happy day. You're listening to Breath Play Happy Hour. Our intention is for you to learn and practice how the breath can guide you to wake up, let go, and shift your success and happiness in life, love, business, sports, and beyond. I'm your host, Roberto Suarez at Happy Coach. Uh, we're we're getting we're going to start with a deep breath, three deep breaths, inhaling through the nose and exhaling through the mouth, so we can relax and transform our life today with my guest Julia Alessandra. And so let's do some let's do the to get present. Let's do the breath. We're going to inhale for 2 or 3 seconds through the nose, and then we're going to exhale through the mouth. So ready? Here we go. Inhale through the nose. 1, 2, 3. Hold, relax, let it go. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. I hope we feel a little better and more present. So, Julia is a world traveler and explorer of everything human. Originally from Germany, she currently lives in Chiapas, Mexico. She teaches yoga and is recently graduated as a breathwork facilitator. Her approach to breathwork is rooted in non-dual spiritual teachings and contemporary science. So welcome, Julia.
Thank you very much, Roberto. I'm so honored to be here and honestly also a bit surprised to have been invited. So very much looking forward to this conversation with you.
Uh, so it's sort of a surprise, you're like an awesome breath worker and yoga teacher. But to get started, why don't you tell us, your it could be your breathwork story or your yoga story. How did you get, to be, like how do you get into your whole spiritual life? You know.
um,
And it's a short story.
yeah, I was about to ask, where do you want to start? um, so to say, to keep it short, my spiritual path, I would say, started actively in 2010 when I did my first Vipassana retreat. So I
Mm-hmm.
don't know, you've probably heard about Vipassana silent meditation.
Mm-hmm.
And this was also maybe not my first, but a new introduction into breath awareness.
Ah.
So at the beginning of Vipassana retreats, I think it's maybe the first 2 or 3 days, I don't remember exactly, that you practice a meditation technique called Anapana, which is basically observing the breath and the sensations that come with the breath. And then it was also through Vipassana that I realized that my body just needed more than sitting still. Or in order to be able to sit still, it needed movement and it needed some more training. And that's how I got to asana yoga. Mostly there are my
Uh,
dogs. um,
yeah.
so I said
So they're
through
meditating. Your dogs are meditating, right?
yeah, my dogs are guarding the house. Hey, come on. Sorry for that. I don't know if you want to cut that out later.
No, no, you can.
Um, I will just keep talking. My partner
Yeah,
should be home soon, and then silence the dogs.
no problem.
So through the prolonged sitting in the Vipassana retreat, which is I think about 10 hours of sitting still every day, I realized that my body needed movement, and that's how
Mm-hmm.
I got to asana practice. So what's usually called yoga, even though yoga is so much more than just the poses. And then from there on, I just got deeper into different styles of yoga. I was fortunate enough to train in Vini yoga, which is, I think, not so much known style that has a pretty therapeutic approach and that links movement with the breath in a very gentle way. Not as like the more popular styles of vinyasa, who are also directed by the breath, but it's more like the breath is more used as the beat of the movement. And in Vini yoga, it's really making the movement and the breath one, in a sense that they are almost inseparable. And so to cut that long story a little bit shorter, years after I decided to do a yoga teacher training and become a yoga teacher myself. And yeah, I mean, yoga is a constant path, and the breath is integral part of yoga. And I was fascinated by pranayama, which is the breathing techniques or the breath work that's part of yoga. But I think I was also always a little bit afraid of it because the teachers that I studied with had a very careful approach to the breath. And they would tell us, oh, be careful not to go too fast. Be careful not to overdo it. You can cause harm if you go into the breath too fast, too deep, with techniques that you're not prepared for. And at the same time, I felt I didn't get the preparation to really know how to do pranayama techniques. And that's why I let the breathing part of yoga idle a little bit as I got more and more into asana practice and stayed with my meditation practice. And then about a little over 2.5 years ago, I would say, I had a really impactful psychedelic experience here in Mexico with, it's called Bufo alvarius, or they call it sapito here, which is a form of DMT, of naturally occurring DMT. And that was just such a profound experience that it shaped a lot of my worldview and my spirituality afterwards. And then, yeah, it was maybe a year later that I was listening to an interview. I was listening to a lot of podcasts back then. And I don't even remember who the interviewee was, but they talked about breath work, and in particular about rebirthing breath work, and that it could bring up similar experiences to DMT. And I was like, if that's possible only through the breath, then I have to know about it. And that's how I started to research breath work. And that's how I found Dan Brulé, which is also the person that we met through, I think, indirectly at least. And that's where my journey with the breath started. And then I took a headfirst dive into breathwork at the 2020. It was last year, Breathfest, and that's where we met. In case you remember.
I don't know if it was 2019 or 2020.
It was a different lifetime.
That's a great story. You know, the amazing thing is that you learn probably the most important thing on your first thing that you ever did in Vipassana, like, you know, breath awareness, you know, being able to notice how we're breathing, you know, or not breathing, and people being aware of that. So what was that experience like when you first realize how you were breathing or not breathing, you know, especially when you had to be there like for 10 hours in silence? How was that? That's a guy.
It's difficult. Just like putting a leash on that monkey mind is so difficult. So becoming aware of just trying to change it, want to interfere with it without starting hard. And I think I'm still not there. And you're absolutely right. It's one of the most important, most basic, and also most difficult parts of breath work is just to be with the breath and let it
Mm-hmm.
unfold just the way it wants to move. Because I think that's just tapping into the life force as it is, as it moves through us, and not putting any obstacles in its way, and not blocking it, and not trying to direct it anyway that the ego wants to impose on it. It's just the hardest part.
Yeah, it's for me. It was always the my ego was so like I don't know, controlling,
Mm-hmm.
that it would stop. I started like learning about how I breathe. I started like I couldn't breathe when I started doing Tai Chi.
Mm-hmm.
And we started doing this. First of all, it was almost like the first thing that my teacher said, go over there in the corner, and he put me in a standing meditation, and he said, okay, just sit here and do nothing for the rest of the class.
Oh, so you went to an advanced Tai Chi class in the beginning.
So I go, I want to go do movements or something. And he goes, no, you have to just sit here, right? But I gotta go. It was like an awakening, just
Mm-hmm.
watching like my mind, I can't sit here and stand for an hour and do nothing, and just being with it. And he turned out, I asked my Tai Chi teacher a few years later, he said, what did you think about me when you first saw me? And he goes, oh, he goes, this guy is going to be a tough case. And I go, why do you say that? He goes, because your shoulder was almost up to your ear of so much, you were so stressed out,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And I was so tight, because I used to lift weights and all that. And he goes, man, for you to relax, to be able to relax, and it took me like 3 or 4 or 5 years to relax, to be able to
Mm-hmm.
feel the energy. Like now I can just go like this, like put my hands almost together and I can feel the energy. It took me 5 years to do that, you know,
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't know about the breath. And then we also did this breath exercise where we would breathe. We bend all the way down, and then we would breathe through the nose and try to stand up in one breath. And halfway up, I just couldn't do it. Because I was a mouth breather, and I
Mm-hmm.
was a shallow breather, and I couldn't breathe. It was like, ridiculous. But I started learning about breath awareness, right? And how terrible, how stressed out I was, and I couldn't, it was like, I was actually killing me, and I wasn't aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
What it was doing to my body, to all these acid reflex in my system, because of the stress and what was going on. So that was kind of like an awakening for me, you know,
Mm-hmm.
when I first started. But it wasn't yoga. Then eventually I got into yoga, and then that I started learning a little bit more about there and how to integrate, the breath with the yoga. And I never heard of Vini yoga, never.
Yeah.
It,
Yeah, it's not that well known, and I haven't come across it after I did my first initial, I think it was maybe 2.5 years that I practiced yoga in Germany before I left the country.
mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's probably because in the States, yoga has been so intertwined with the fitness industry,
Yeah.
um, that the more subtle and the more therapeutic parts are not as present. There's definitely Vini yoga also in the States, but you probably have to look for it.
Yeah, it's a more like hatha yoga, or well, hatha yoga is almost everything, right?
Exactly. I would call what I do hatha yoga, just because in my understanding it includes anything that's like physical asana practice, that's breath work or pranayama, that's meditation. This can all fall under hatha yoga.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I think the way that this term is interpreted in the States is that hatha yoga is like the slow, gentle, even
Mm-hmm.
though the original meaning of the word is forceful. So, um, Vini yoga is definitely a gentle form of hatha yoga, I would say.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah, but what you describe is basically the experience that I had in my first meditation retreat. It's not so much about movement because you sit still, but it's also about paying more and more attention. It took you 5 years to be aware of energy flow. It takes so long to get with all these subtle aspects of our existence. And I can definitely identify with this experience that you go there and you think, oh, this is going to be easy. And then a lot of what we do in the beginning, and I think that goes for meditation, that goes for physical yoga practice, that goes for breath work, is just undoing patterns and undoing habits that we think, oh, that we don't even know that are there, or that we think are just absolutely normal. And it's like eating junk food all your life and then being introduced to a healthy diet, right?
Yeah. So how did that change? How did it, the breath work, or how did it shift who you were to where you're at now? Like, how did that support you? And because the reason I ask these questions is to help all those people out there, right, that maybe have never done any kind of breath work or yoga, so they can get a feeling of, how important, the breath is.
Yeah. So as we do in yoga, let's move from the more gross parts, gross in the sense of dense and physical, to the more subtle parts. So when I speak of yoga and think about my physical practice first, it just has changed my relationship with my body so much. I mean, I also grew up in a society where the focus on the body is very much from the outside. So the aesthetics of the body, the physical appearance. And I think having grown up in a female body, I might have experienced that a little bit more strongly than people who grow up in a male body or who are considered male by society. It's just this constant looking at yourself as if you were the third person, as if you were somebody else, and then just judging the outer layer, so to speak. And yoga and Vipassana meditation, as this is a technique where you focus so much on the sensations in the body, has helped me to shift the focus inwards and just feel my body from the inside out. And I often compare that with somebody who's given a coat which is like 5 sizes too big. And many people try to wear their body as if it were an oversized coat, and they just feel so uncomfortable in it, and they don't really know how to move in it. And they always look at themselves and they feel something's not right. And developing this inner sense of who we are, physically speaking, has helped me so much to just like fill out this coat, or just like grow into this oversized thing that I was given, and just really fit like hand in glove, I think you say in English. That I just feel that my presence is in my body, but that I'm also judging my body a lot less from the outside. So it's really not that important to me anymore. What do I look like? What does my face look like? What are the different shapes of my different body parts? So it's really more about living in the body. And yeah, I think I'm just so much happier for it, so much more content and present, and just feeling well in my body because I'm in touch with what's going on. I'm in touch with the sensations, with, so to speak, with the interface that is my body with the environment, right? So
Yeah.
And when it comes to the breath, I think that's just an added layer to that. The breath is so fascinating to me because it's also at this intersection of the body and the subtle part of what we are. So there's the whole physicality, the anatomy of the breath, the mechanics of the breath, the muscular parts, the skeletal parts, and everything that I find fascinating about the breath. But then there's also like the biochemistry of respiration, and then there's the whole energetic and then spiritual part of breathing. And I think in one way the breath is just this anchor to come back to the present moment, to draw my attention back from wherever it has gone. And with the attention, it's also like drawing my energy back in. So this is definitely something that I have become a lot more aware of through breath work. Like, where am I sending my personal energy? Where am I investing my energy? Where am I losing energy? Where am I charging energy? And yeah, it has also helped me to be a lot more, maybe, what's the word, faster maybe, with picking up changes. I mean, my yoga practice is a lot about becoming aware of changes that are going on in the sensations, in the thoughts, in the breathing patterns. And because the breath for me is this gateway to our emotions, to what's going on in the body, to what's going on in the mind. As soon as we can become aware of changes in the breath, we are also a lot faster to catch changes in these other aspects.
Yeah, wow. Man, you said a lot there. I hope everybody listening were listening very closely. You were saying so many things. Where do I start? I want to see if I can simplify it like Dan Brule, you know, where you know, like if I had to tell somebody, you know, coming in that the three key things for like breath work, and by the way, I call it breath play, just because it doesn't have to be work, even though you have to practice. Because if you don't, like anything else, if you like yoga practice or Tai Chi practice or anything, you know, anything you want to shift, or you want to shift a habit, or you want to get good at something, you have to practice. So you have to do the same thing with the breath. But to master it, you know, there are three things, three key variables that help you master the breath, or at least, you know, that's what I learned from Dan, but I'm also experiencing it. One is the awareness. And the awareness, the message for awareness is to wake up. Because most of us are unconscious of what's going, like you're saying, like you're becoming more and more aware, you became more and more aware of your body, right? And then the more you become aware of your body and the breath, the more you become aware how you're feeling, of your emotions, of what's around you. So it's waking up, and then the factor is consciousness, you know, being conscious constantly of what's going on. I don't think I was conscious for like 50 years of my life. Because I was either in the past or somewhere in the future, you know, like whatever, even though the past and the future is on the mind, but I was really here, but I wasn't really present to what was going on. And then the next thing is being able to relax, to let go of all that stuff, you know, and then using the breath to the exhale to help you let go, you know, and the message there is let go, and the factor is release, to be able to release any pain, any heaviness, anything in your head, anything, you know, that is physically hurting you, right? Or and just be able to let go. So let go is the second thing, and then the third, relaxation is the second key variable. Because if we keep resisting and we don't relax, we keep everything in place. So I think the yoga and Tai Chi and all these techniques or practices help us clear our body. I think, you know, like help us clear the body, and then the breath helps the energy, and it helps all that. It helps us move through it and relax into any intensity that's showing up. Then the third part is conscious breathing, right? That we can consciously know how we're breathing, and we can shift our breath patterns to move whatever we need. So the awareness, the relaxation, conscious breathing coming together helps us manifest whatever we want, you know, and get back to the present. So what you were saying, how the breath helped you, is that, you know, you became more connected to your real self, and and be able to live a more happy life by being here now, by being aware of what's going on right now, and not judging yourself and everything. Like when you're in your mind, you're judging.
Exactly. Yeah.
So at least that's my belief. In my experience. I don't have the truth, uh, but everybody should like. But that's why I do these podcasts, is to learn from everybody, not just experts, or because we're all experts, but people are just starting or learning, or have clients or whatever, because everybody has a different experience. So what your experience with what you're doing is totally like amazing. So what would you advise, like, let's say a 21-year-old, or one of your clients, of if they were getting into if they're looking for a path, what would you advise them?
Well,
So,
when
so
it
you,
comes to, when it comes to paths, I usually suggest, okay, sometimes you know where you're going or where you want to go, but then you don't know where you are.
yeah.
So you might have gotten an advice to go into that direction, but I always say, if you're already in the United States and you want to go, oh no, that's the wrong way around. If you're in Mexico and you want to go to the United States and somebody tells you go north, that's generally the right direction. But if you're already in Canada and people tell you to the United States go north,
Yeah.
then you might not end up where you want to go. So
Right.
I usually try to help people to figure out where they are
Yeah.
and then see how they can get from where they are to where they want to go. But yeah, a lot of the first steps, I think, is recognizing patterns, becoming aware of psychological patterns, of physical patterns, of breath patterns, and first be with what there is and try to accept it, because most people, they are not honest to themselves. So they have these beliefs about themselves that can be like negative beliefs, but they can also be like false positive beliefs, right? So I think honesty is probably a good indicator to find out where you are. And as people do that work, often they also find out that where they wanted to go is not actually where they want to be. So that might shift the map that they need. So
So
yeah,
that yeah.
thinking
So yeah,
about,
yeah. Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No. It's great. It's like doing almost like a current analysis, a current reality analysis of where you're at in like different areas of your life. Like well-being, spirituality, business, well, like total well-being and relationships, and finding out where you're at, but not coming from your mind, coming more from feeling. Because the mind always or try to justify or tell us, or like justify why we're not really doing good or bad, right? Except in feeling. I think most of us are not feeling. You mentioned something about how, I don't know, that when you were talking about your body, that you could feel and see, and all the senses. The more you become aware, and the more you breathe and do yoga and release, you start to feel. So it's coming from feeling instead of coming more from your heart instead of coming from your head.
Yeah.
You know.
And so, for example, when people say they want to achieve a certain goal, and let's say a very popular goal for many people is they want to lose weight,
Right.
or another popular goal is to earn more money.
Right.
So I usually try to guide people towards what they expect to feel once they achieve that goal. And then really dig deeper and go underneath what their true desire is, or what their real need is underneath that. So often you find that people believe that once they achieve a certain goal, everything else in their life will fall into place. But what they really want is their life to be in place. And it's not so much about how many pounds they weigh or how much money they make. It's more about wanting to feel good and wanting to feel loved and accepted, and finding happiness despite often not really knowing what happiness really is, right? So I mean, it's, in a certain sense, it is an analytical approach, and I really like the mind. It gets a bad rep, but the mind is a really useful tool if we use it the right way.
Yeah.
So the mind can definitely help us with this this inquiry, but then it's also about getting in touch with all the other aspects of what we are. And then usually people will find out that happiness is not at the level of the mind, it's somewhere else. But it might help them reorient themselves or redefine the goals that they were striving for. They might figure out it doesn't really matter. It's more because happiness lies somewhere else.
Yeah, I do a process where I call it the share vision kind of process, share vision process, where I take people through a whole analysis and then connecting to their values, and then once they got their values, is okay, what are your three main ones, and then you go into, how do you put that in, taking those values and put it into like a mission statement, in the present, like being able to implement that in your life. And then once you do that, how are you feeling? And then taking that person to feel that mission of their life, and usually they connect to their essence. So like if like mine, mine's very simple right now. My mission is to wake up every morning and deliver happiness through breath play coaching. Right?
That's a beautiful mission.
You know what I'm saying? So that's what I do every day. And when I feel that every day, what I'm really tapping into is I am free. I'm happy, I'm free. So I didn't have to. I didn't have to, get $1 million. I didn't have to get anything. I didn't have to, what I'm saying? Is if you can play your game in life from that feeling, then everything works, because you don't have to go anywhere. You're already feeling it. And when you're not feeling that energy, right? There's something that is holding you back. You need to release to get back to that energy, or to that, I call it flow. So either your body's flowing or contracting. So if you're in flow, things are flow. If you're in contraction, everything else is contract. So I believe that the breath and yoga and Tai Chi and all that is to bring you back into your center, like you said, to your, coming back home, coming back into your heart or into your essence, and being able to play life from that space. And
yeah, definitely.
So it's awesome. So, is there a breath that you use that you teach people that you wanna maybe teach us, or teach our listeners that they can practice every day or once a week?
So one breath modality maybe, or one technique, if you want to call it that I'm teaching especially this month, is vocalization. So I have an ongoing online course where every month we look at different ways that we can practice with the breath, amongst other things. And this month we're looking at how you can make your own body vibrate through the breath and through sound. And You can do this with any sound, but the vowel sounds are usually the ones that are easier to make to vibrate in the body.
Mm-hmm.
And the simplest one is A or Ah. So the idea would be to get your spine nice and long, centering your head above the center of your chest and above the center of your pelvis, so that you really free up the neck, so that you're not pushing the head forward nor tilting it in any direction or turning it, so that you feel that you're opening up the whole throat area. And then if you are able to connect with that part of your body, you can also lift the soft palate, which is at the back of your mouth, opening up this whole space towards the back of your mouth. It's a detail that once you tune into it, you feel how you can open up more space and free up the breath. Mm-hmm. And then it's really about a gentle inhale. You can inhale through the nose or through the mouth. And then as you exhale, you just let go of this ah sound. And if you want, you can place one hand on the chest, the other one on the belly, or you can gently place your hands around the throat if that's where you want to feel the vibration. And so staying centered, staying relaxed, inhale. And you can help the breath a little bit with gentle pressure on the abdominals, but really it's about staying as soft as you can, so as much of the body as possible vibrates with the sound. And then you can play around with the pitch, you can play around with the shape of your mouth, doing all the different vowel sounds that you can come up with, and see and feel where in the body do these frequencies resonate. And I found that in my breathwork practice, when we do the circular connected breathing, and then people start to vocalize that way, or just like let their body vibrate and resonate, it just frees up so many energetic blockages. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if that's a female thing, because I've seen it mainly in female clients, and I'm observing it in myself. It's just this difficulty to speak up, to voice ourselves, to make ourselves heard. And in my personal experience, this goes hand in hand with lots of throat issues, with throat infections, with sore throats, with, is it called aphonia if you can't speak? Mm-hmm. So this focus on the throat is very helpful for a lot of people who have difficulties to speak up or express what they're feeling. And so for me, quite physically and literally speaking, but also energetically speaking, for me, the throat is this bottleneck that connects the rational mind and the emotional heart. Mm-hmm. And then further down, like our creative energy. And mm-hmm. we might be feeling all these emotions, we might be experiencing all this expressive energy, but then we just like tie a knot in our throat and we don't let it out. Mm-hmm. And so these exercises to open up this space, to make it wider, to let the energy, to let the air and let the sounds flow more freely, I think that can help a lot of people.
Well, that's awesome. You're concentrating on I guess the fifth chakra, right? That it's all about communications. And so like the interesting thing is that you're when you free that up, you're actually freeing yourself, like self-expression and being able mm-hmm. But you also said that you can feel different vibrations, in your I guess your different chakras or whatever that that you can release it, right?
Yeah, I'm actually a bit skeptical about the 7 chakra model, the way it is taught, but I think it's a very useful tool for people to get in touch with their energetic body. So mm-hmm. actually, this vocalizing is part of a technique that I learned with my teacher, Ann Dyer, who was my teacher for mantra and sound in my yoga teacher training.
Yeah.
And she does what she calls the vowel spiral. And this is where you actually move through your chakras. And in that case, you would start with the ah sound in the heart. Then you can move up with the e sound to the throat. Then with the o sound down into the belly area, so between your solar plexus and your navel, more or less, your belly button, then up with E to where you would locate the third eye, and then U, like the deepest and like gravest sound down in the lower abdomen, where the first and second chakra from the popular model would be located. And then you can move up all the way from the pelvic floor through what in yoga would be called your central channel or Sushumna Nadi, up to the crown of the head, where according to the model, like still inside of the body or outside of the body, your seventh chakra would be located with the sound of Om. So drawing the Om up through the central channel and have the final nasal sound vibrate in your skull. That's a little bit more complex.
Yeah.
So I don't want to go all the way there.
Depending on, no, that's great. It's great.
Depending on where your listeners are at, but people who have a little bit more experience with chanting, with these types of vibrations, they can also try this vowel spiral, finishing with Om.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, because there's so many different ways to, so many different philosophies and systems, and I think they're all good. The idea is to eventually test them all out. See which one works for you, and then at the end you create your own.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Whatever that is for you, so you can, you're your own creator, be able to use since we're in the breath, being able to use whatever breath technique or system or sequence. I use a lot of like movement with the breath. Even when I do Tai Chi, I don't now. I'll do different breaths through like the nose when I'm doing my form, and I play with it to see how I can move energy where before I wasn't even aware of that. So the more you practice the different techniques, I think what we're just talking about, using the sounds to open up and move, different channels and stuff. That's awesome. Yeah, and for some people it could be like the best thing to do, especially if they're into singing and chanting and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So in terms of singing, I started to take singing lessons. Yeah, it's almost 2.5 years too now. So and I felt so many changes in the way that I speak in public when I'm teaching, just the confidence and it's not only that my voice doesn't get sore as fast as it used to, but just also the way that I feel grounded in my body. So the voice is so intimately connected with the breath that I think you can get there from both directions. You can do breath work and find your voice, or you can find your voice and realize that a lot about it is also about the breath. But yeah, I feel a lot of people have the self-awareness about the voice and about singing, about chanting, about making sounds. But it's not so much about the performance. I think a lot of people think that singing is about being heard, or it's about sounding nice, even when it's more those spiritual practices or these embodied practices. And I would like to invite people to not be self-conscious about making these sounds or feeling these vibrations. They can do it when they're in the shower, they can do it when they're on their own, and they can even plug their ears to not hear the sound from the outside, but rather connect with what's going on inside the body as they make these sounds, because that's what I think is the way to be more connected through making sounds.
Wow. You know, I had to be, at one time I thought I was the second worst singer in the world. My father was number one, but he didn't realize it, especially in the parties. But now, you know, like when I lead, let's say, ceremonies, you know, like through group ceremonies, so I put music on, and sometimes there'd be like a chanting, so I start chanting, you know, and I don't care, and it just moves my energy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I just get in it. Or if I'm walking, you know, like I walk every day. By the way, my knees are like, remember that I had my knees replaced?
Yeah.
Yeah. They're good.
Great. I'm so glad to hear that.
Yeah. So I'm walking 3, 4, 5 miles a day, and I do all different breaths, and then I breath hold, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes I got music going on, you know, and all of a sudden it'd be music that's chanting. So I'm walking and chanting down the street. People think I'm crazy or whatever. You know?
It's just such a primary way of expressing ourselves. I'm not sure if this theory is in any way verifiable, but I think there are anthropologists who say that before the human being spoke, we already were able to sing, so that the gift of speech actually grew out of song. And I find it fascinating that people who lose their ability to speak, for example, because of a stroke, they can still sing. And there's this emotional connection that song brings with it.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
if people can get together these days, I think singing in groups has gotten a little bit of a bad reputation as well, just because it's turned into super spreader events, right? But singing together is just so strong, as is breathing together. I think singing together and breathing together are very close siblings.
Yeah.
Because we start to vibrate in the same frequency, and we start to breathe at the same pace, and we start to feel the same emotions. And I think that's really a form of communion. And it can be a communion of one if you do the chanting by yourself, or it can be with other people if you get together in these sound making events.
Oh, that's wonderful. And you're breathing while you're breathing, right? When you're singing, so that, you know, that's what I tell, you know, that's just for the people that never done breath work and say you don't have time or whatever. He goes, you don't need time. You're breathing anyway. The breath is breathing you. So all you have to do now is be conscious about it, right? And practice different things to help you breathe fuller, right? And wider. And singing can do that, chanting can do that. And the more you become conscious about it, the more, you know, the more oxygen you're going to be bringing into your body, and you're going to be healing yourself by being conscious of the breath and practicing it. You know, like they go, no, I don't have 5 minutes to breathe. And I go, I start laughing.
You'll be dead by then.
I go, just get in the shower, you know, do the 20 breath technique, or sing, or do whatever, right? Or you're doing coffee, you can practice your breathing, or you're getting dressed. And I used to tell people when I first started doing meditation, instead of breathing, I would do the same thing. I go, you know, meditation is giving attention. So you don't have to just close your eyes and meditate. When you're doing coffee, just be present to making the coffee, you know, and see what shows up. So anyway, but so I try to tell people, you know, just play with the breath, you know, have fun, and you know, come up with a breath technique that is going to help you calm down, right? Get you totally grounded, and be able to help you heal. You know, the more I started breathing and all that, I just started healing my body. I used to get acid reflux. I would have to like purge every day 2 or 3 times a day because I would get stuck when I would eat. I was going the wrong way, and now I don't get allergies. I don't get I basically don't get sick. I don't, and I have more energy. I'm going to be 70 years old in November. I feel like I'm 20 years
Oh,
old.
wow. Yeah, you look 20.
That's what I feel. you know, I, like when people tell me everything that they do and whatever, and they can't breathe or whatever like that, I go, look, don't, I can do a handstand. I'm 70. so go breathe or do something.
Yeah. What I find is the breath is so simple and
Yeah,
everybody does it that people don't believe that it has so much power. People have
absolutely.
been taught to go to authorities and to have things done to them
Yeah.
and pay, I don't know how much a massage is where you are.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
probably over
Oh, yeah.
$100,
Yeah.
or they get fancy treatments, or they need somebody else to tell them where they're at emotionally or psychologically, instead of coming back to these really simple techniques of tuning inwards, of getting in touch with yourself, and yeah, becoming aware of what's going on. And the breath is such an amazing tool to do that.
and
And
and,
it's
and
free.
yeah, yeah, it's free. and the, and the great thing is that whatever you're doing in life, right? You it, the breath can support you in mastering whatever you're doing if you're not mastering already. So if you take the top athlete, if you take the top singers or musicians or doctors or whatever, the 1%, most of them are conscious breathers. They're aware of their breath, and they're aware of what they're doing. They're present to what they're doing because they mastered breathing. And so if you want to master your life, I say master your breath. So anyway, that's my 2 cents. But so is there anything else you want to say about the breath or whatever? If not, maybe what you're up to. Are you writing a book? What do you do? Like you want to tell people where can they get a hold of you? Uh,
um like, I was super shy when it comes to putting myself out there. So I'm
yeah,
really slowly starting to publish more things on my Facebook, on my Instagram.
yeah.
You can find me at, it's difficult to say that in English without sounding weird, but it's Jewel Ale Yoga. So it's JUL for Julia, then ALE for Alessandra, which is my second name, and then yoga, just as yoga. You find me with, on Facebook and on Insta with that handle. I'm putting things out mainly in Spanish
Okay.
because I'm in a
That's
Spanish speaking country. And so almost all of my students so far are native Spanish speakers. Some of my Instagram is in English. Every week I'm putting out a moment for practice, which is often a breath-centered practice that you can do, just as you say, like in almost any moment of your life. Just take a moment or two to tune inwards and see what's going on with your breath. And so you can find that on my Instagram. And apart from that, I'm just living my life right now, establishing my breathwork practice. It's mainly in person so far, which is possible here in Mexico, fortunately, because as we spoke about in the beginning, my internet is not that reliable due to where I am.
it's done
So
pretty good.
so far it's been surprisingly good.
Yeah.
But let's say I offer yoga online,
Mhm.
but for breath work, I prefer in person for now, just because I don't want to lose the connection with the person in the middle of the breathing session. And so this is basically what I do right now. If I get time, I'm out in my garden my plants. That's my way of connecting with life.
Oh my God.
If it's not through the breath. So
Well, I appreciate you coming on. You were awesome. Uh, I hope people listen. Anybody want to send her, some messages and get a hold of her. Get a hold of her, especially if you're in Mexico. I can't wait until I can go to Mexico again and maybe go down. Maybe we can do something together.
We definitely should do that.
and uh, and I think I'll be traveling more there at the end of this, like second part of this year. I might be going to Costa Rica next month.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
beautiful.
I got 5 breath workers that moved there. So, and I don't know. I'm probably go. I don't know. I'm probably meet Dan Boulay there. In Mexico, so maybe go down there. I'm going to be talking to Dan right now in about 10 minutes. And but you were wonderful. I think people can learn. You're like a wonderful teacher. And what can I say? You got it all.
I feel so honored that you think that. There's still so much to explore and so much to discover, but I'm happy to be doing what I'm doing. I'm happy to be able to share this gift of yoga and the breath with other people, because I think it's just such a beautiful thing to know about, to be embodied in, to be living with, because it connects you to yourself, it connects you to spirit, it connects you with life. So I just wish for everybody who's listening to this that they have already found their own practice, or that they have gotten some inspiration through our conversation to start looking for ways to be more connected, to be more in the present moment, to be happier with whatever it is that they are doing right now. And again, I feel so honored to have been on your podcast, Roberto. It's been so much fun and such a pleasure to see you again. And well, invite me for your 21st birthday, and we'll have a party either in Miami or down here in southern Mexico.
Oh, well, thank you for being on. And I feel a lot happier after this conversation. Just feeling your energy. Oh, you were awesome. So, okay. Until next broadcast, I'll see everybody. Remember, breathe happy, live happy. We'll see you and we'll hear you next time. Ciao. Thank you, Julia. Love you.
Thank you so much, Roberto.
Okay.